my name's Penny, and as usual, I'm here to talk about some bookish things specifically. Today, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite books from 2019. As I said in my previous videos, I read 250 books this year, so picking the top books was very difficult. So I've decided to split it into genres. So for this video, we're going to be talking about my top science fiction reads of the year. I will say I actually felt like I read a lot of science fiction this year, but then when I went and looked through what I'd actually read, there wasn't that much science fiction after all. So I think in 2020, especially for the year 2020, which is such a significant year in terms of what we think of when we think of the future, I'm definitely going to be needing to read a lot more science fiction. But I still managed to come up with a top 5 science fiction books that I read this year, so let me tell you about them. Number 5 is All Rights Reserved by Gregory Scott Katsolis. So this is a dystopian where once you turn 15, every word you speak you will be charged for. So everybody has a little wristband that tracks everything they say and charges them. Also, physical gestures will be charged for, and it really analyzes what effect this might have on a society if we took copyright to this level of extreme. Primarily, we follow this girl named Speth. Her name is Speth because that was a cheap name and her family can't afford a more expensive name. But she decides that she's just going to refuse to speak, and this has quite a big impact, a bigger impact than she was expecting. This book is actually part of a duology, and unfortunately I thought the end of All Rights Reserved and the second book weren't quite as well put together, but I still really enjoyed the beginning of this book and just the ideas that it explored in the story. And isn't that always what you want from science fiction? At least it's what I want. Then number 4 is The Light Brigade by Cameron Hurley. This is somewhat a time travel book. And I do like time travel, although I will say for this particular book, I was a bit disappointed in the time travel overall. Basically, we follow this person and their gender is not mentioned until about halfway through the book. They join the army in this war against Mars and the Martians, although it's pretty clear right from the beginning that the Martians are perhaps not aliens. They are, in fact, just humans living on Mars, and the planet is now run by these 7 main corporations, and if you are not a citizen of one of those corporations, then you are going to really struggle in the world. So it's very dystopian, but at the same time, once our main character joins the army, they will be beamed down to where they're supposed to fight, and our main character starts getting beamed down not only into a different location, but also to a different point in time. And so the story isn't necessarily told in a linear way, although it's linear to the way that the character experiences it. I love the way that the dystopian world was put together with these corporations, and I thought the realities of war were quite well depicted. As I said, I was just a little bit disappointed in the time travel because I wanted it to be something completely mind-blowing, and instead it didn't quite get there, but still this was a very enjoyable read. And if you like time travel and you like gritty, dark space war stuff, then I think you would like this book as well. Number 3 is The Themis Files, which I read on audiobook from the library. I would actually really like to read the physical books at some point and see how the reading experience differs, because the story is told through different interviews, transcripts, and files and documents. It's not quite as much of a multimedia experience as the Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman or Jay Kristoff, although that might just be because I listened to the audiobooks and didn't read the physical books. So I'd love to read the physical books at some point. So in this story, we follow this young girl who, riding her bicycle through the forest, falls into a hole and realizes that she's on top of a giant hand, and then they start finding the rest of the parts of the robot. The story throughout the series really goes in unexpected directions, and sometimes I thought the way that it was told meant that you were a little bit disconnected from the characters, but in the end I still did manage to get that connection, and there were some very extreme parts. I will say for book number 2, there is a torture scene, and listening to that in audiobook was quite intense, so if that's something you think you might be sensitive to, it's something to watch out for. But I just thought these books did a really great job at looking at what it means to be human and what it might be like when we finally do touch base with aliens, especially if they're already aware of us. There were some really great characters and some really great action. And the audiobook narration is full cast, and I thought it was done in a really good way, so I would definitely recommend the audiobooks for this series as well. Then number 2 I don't have here, but I do have the spin-off series, so I'll hold that up instead. And that is this graphic novel, not this one, the other ones, the prequels. So Descender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. I probably said that wrong. But this is a graphic novel series all about a war between robots and humans. Basically, some giant robots turned up and just killed a whole bunch of humans, and the humans then retaliated by culling all the robots, even though they depend on robots for their survival and do a lot of things for them. And throughout the story, we follow this young companion robot, Tim 21, as he tries to find out what happened to his brother and his mother, who are both human. These books make me feel very emotional. I got very emotionally attached to the robots, and I think it really looks at what the relationship could be or should be like between robots and humans. And so far, the spin-off series Ascender, which follows the daughter of 2 of those characters, it looks like it's going to be just as amazing and will probably be on my top books for next year. In fact, I just read this, so it's December, so this is also top science fiction for the year. It counts. Then the number 1 science fiction that I read this year would definitely be Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and also the sequel Starsight was released this year. Unfortunately, my library copy hasn't turned up yet, so I probably won't read it until next year, but I am very excited to get my hands on that second book because the first one was so great. Did that sentence even make sense? Anyway, number 1 is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This follows a girl named Spencer who wants to become a pilot and protect the humans that now live in these caves on this desolate planet from the aliens that regularly attack them. Unfortunately, her father was also a pilot and he ran away in the middle of this big fight, and so now people don't really think that she should be allowed to be a pilot. But then while she's out exploring the desert, she discovers something which changes everything. Of course, it's Brandon Sanderson, so at the end of the book, everything changes. You learn things that just change everything. There is also an AI character in this book series that is just my favorite, and he's so funny, and I love him, and I can't wait to learn more about that character. They're just my absolute favorite. And if you haven't picked up Skyward by Brandon Sanderson yet, then you really should, because it is going to be an amazing series. I can just tell already. So, those are the top 5 science fiction books that I read in 2019. Do keep an eye out for the rest of my top books of 2019 videos. And let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about. What did you think about them? Or are there any other science fiction books that you would recommend to me? As I said, I am going to be needing to read some more science fiction in 2020. So I need some recommendations. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.